Hi, I'm Megan Ulrich, VP of Marketing and Public Relations for BHI Senior Living. I've been here a long time. I actually started almost 19 years ago as an intern and never left. Started at Maple Knoll Village at our Ohio campus. What about you, Dan?
This is my 40th year and was an executive director at Townhouse for 32. And for the last 7, I've been the vice president of operations here at BHI.
Wonderful. And I just came over to corporate last March from Maple Knoll Village. So it's been exciting to get into all the campuses and see how we differ and what things we're doing well at all the campuses and kind of make everything a little more uniform from a marketing and PR perspective, working with my great team here at the corporate office. So.
You know, the interesting piece when you say that is there's a lot of similarities in our culture and all of our communities, but again, there's certainly some differences, and you got to celebrate those differences too as you're trying to get each of our campuses doing things somewhat similar.
It's amazing the stories that we have coming out of our campuses that we're finding as we're going in and talking to residents and talking to staff and seeing the amazing things that they've done throughout their lives. In retirement, we've got somebody who's going to be turning 112. So it's just so neat to get to know these people and see them. I think that's one of my favorite parts of my job is getting to really know the people living and working in our campuses. What about you?
Yeah, you know, that's probably one of the things I miss working at a campus is knowing some of the residents. I think of some of the people I've interacted with that were residents at Townhouse where I worked, and just absolutely remarkable. You know, the lives they led, the history. A couple of individuals I can sit here and think that just they saw early 20th century and again just understood what was going on. One lady, her husband was the designer architect for Rockefeller Plaza in New York, and it's just go up and talk to her just was absolutely, again, a history lesson in early 20th century, and also again a world that just was so different than one that I knew.
It's so interesting. So Dan, you've been with us for almost 40 years then. What do you think has really changed over the years in senior living?
You know, it's become kind of a move away from healthcare and more towards, I think, a service of active living and just, again, providing a much wider variety of services than we provided in the past. You know, I think things like, food. You know, when I started, it was a very institutional type food service, and now, it's essentially a full-size restaurant we're operating. So a lot of changes, a lot of different demands, lots of similarities. Again, a lot of good people. Over the years, the staff we've had have just been excellent in a lot of respects. And again, I've seen a lot of really quality, competent individuals work for BHI.
So it's interesting you say that because, I've been here 19 years, you've been here almost 40. The amount of longevity we have with our staff is incredible. And that's something I know way back when I started, it really impressed me. And I thought, people come here and they don't leave. They move up. I started as an intern and never left. You made it to the corporate office. There's so many stories like that. And now that we provide more internship opportunities, we're getting more and more students coming in and growing within our organization. I think that's something that's really impressive, and I'm proud to say I'm a part of that.
Yeah, again, it's interesting when you mentioned the interns and some of our young people. The one thing that I see is just the young people today are coming in are so much better educated, so much better prepared, so much more knowledgeable. They often take kind of some hits with work ethic, and I just disagree with that. I truly believe the work ethics are good. Our culture is one of longevity, which really kind of is a very unique piece within the healthcare field. We've got some really talented, quality individuals working for us.
I agree completely. So all these changes that we've seen over the years, and obviously the future of what we're seeing from a marketing perspective is, again, people have different expectations. They want to come in because of the lifestyle, the amenities, the activities, the services. That's what draws them in. But then we're kind of like, you could say, a long-term care insurance policy. Once you're always taken care of. Once you're in our campuses, we're going to take care of you for the rest of your life. So I think that's what really draws people, and we're going to see changes coming up in senior living, but that's never going to change. What are some of the changes that you think you'll see over the next, couple years in senior living?
I think you're going to see more amenities. I think you're going to see things like, swimming pools and, like you mentioned, active lifestyle are just going to be simply expected. I think from my perspective, I see a lot of younger people moving into our communities. Obviously, on the healthcare side, I think you're going to see a lot of changes with new services. People expect to be cared for at home. Again, I think you're going to see, a much more a larger focus on our independent living communities and those services. So, yeah, I said again, I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. I don't think we're going to have to worry about potential residents. I think, again, there's going to be a need for a lot of different people working in this environment, and it's becoming maybe a little bit more of a popular type of a career for people.
I agree completely. And I think it's because we're helping to really change what people perceive senior living as. So we've had a group of residents at Hoosier Village recently went skydiving. At Maple Knoll Village, our new travel club just went over to Iceland. So those are things you just wouldn't expect, that we're really breaking down that stereotype. That's, I think, incredibly interesting.
Well, I had a friend of mine that stopped by one of our communities in Fort Wayne, Prairie Landing, and they've known me for a number of years and always looked at me as, in their minds, running a nursing home. And they kind of looked at me and said, "It's a nursing home? This is a resort." And I said, "Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing these days."
Exactly.
So, yeah, I just said, I think there's just a lot of interesting opportunities. The other thing I think you're going to start seeing is, we've already seen, is that people in these next generations are going to be more health prevention oriented. So wellness programs, preventive programs, those type of things are just going to be absolutely key.
I agree completely. So, Dan, so if you had to give advice to somebody who is thinking about going into the senior living field, what would you say to them?
Prepare yourself. Again, educate yourself. It's always been a field that probably has been looked on, at least particularly in the healthcare world, as kind of the poor cousin, so to speak. And I don't think that's going to be the case in the future. We're seeing a lot more individuals that are truly interested in moving into senior living. I think it's becoming more popular, particularly from a management perspective. People are making pretty good money too. So it is a good career. And there's a lot of satisfaction in working with just a lot of nice people. Probably one of the few places where you can bring your kids in and
done that before.
And again, I got two of them obviously working with us, and you don't see that in a lot of other industries.
It is a family feel. I've had residents buy my kids a Christmas gift before and just get to know them and ask how they are. And that's something that really, I think, means something. So at the end of the day, you're going home knowing that you made a difference. I think that's one of the biggest things that drew me to senior living. And I think it's going to be a profession that's here to stay.
And the other side of that, when you say that's what drew you, oftentimes people end up in our world by accident.
Exactly.
They didn't go particularly to school to come into our world, but through that process, they ended up here, and that really is what happened to me. And almost 50 years later, I'm still working in senior living. So
same with me. So our challenge is to recruit everybody to senior living now.
Absolutely.
That's our challenge for the next year.